Hello, America, FBI and CIA agents and fellow cult members. Welcome to Culture Club USA. I'm Dubrava. And today's riddle is, isn't she lovely? Isn't she psycho? Innocent or guilty? Reasonable doubt is her right. So, the hearings for freedom, or will they set her free? Or will she languish in anguish, forced to solitary? Okay, in today's episode of Crime and Culture Unfiltered, a murder suspect makes a Hail Mary for bail. Will her prayers be answered? Let's find out.
Your Honor, the state requests that you continue to hold the defendant, Jennifer Gledhill, without bail. In this case, there is substantial evidence. There's substantial evidence that supports that Matthew Johnson is not missing. Matthew Johnson was murdered by the defendant. I want to briefly go over the evidence in this case. As I've previously told the court, this is an active investigation, and there is significant, substantial evidence discovered after the charging document was filed, and I will include information regarding the new evidence in the state's argument. So first, Your Honor, Matthew has not been seen or heard from since September 20th of 2024. He's not been to work. His family and his friends have not seen him. There's no phone records or bank records, no activity. His military ID and his passport were found in the master bedroom. And the last person to see him alive was the defendant. In fact, some of the new evidence the state has are videos taken that night of the defendant and Matthew arguing in the master bedroom. I now want to talk about the evidence that was provided by the identified informant. On September 22nd, the defendant confessed to the informant that she shot Matthew in the master bedroom with a gun as he slept in the master bed. She confessed that she smashed Matthew's cell phone and hid his truck in a neighborhood near the house. She also confessed that she loaded.
First of all, oh my God. I mean, how stupid can you be? It shocks me. I can't. You did all of that stuff. We are in 2025, 2024, whatever it was, okay? Do you really think that with all the forensics, I mean, just your cell phones alone, do you really think that you're going to get away with that? I don't get it. There was no better answer here. Like, you couldn't just kick him out or leave or get a divorce. I mean, think about what I'm saying. It's crazy. People have literally lost their minds.
That she loaded Matthew's body into a rooftop storage container, slid him down the stairs, and loaded him into the back of her minivan. She confessed that she took Matthew's body north, dug a hole, and buried him in a shallow grave. And she confessed that she cleaned everything up.
Real feminist here. Doing the digging, doing the grabbing the bodies, pulling. I mean, she might be tall, but she's not. She's skinny. She looks like she could have been a model or something at one point. I mean, she did all of that. Do you know how heavy a body is? Like, even just playing around, right? Like pulling your brother or something, you know, when you're kid, a body that's dead weight is like impossible to move. How in God's name did she do this by herself?
Much of the information that was provided to law enforcement by the informant has been verified by actual tangible evidence. Evidence which the state will now present in our detention hearing exhibits. And I spoke with Mr. Diaz before this hearing, and I believe he does not have any objection to the state's exhibits.
Actually, as they zero in, she looks pretty big, sitting next to her lawyer. Yeah, she's kind of broad-shouldered. Yeah, she might. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, she might be.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
So if we could start with the state's Exhibit 1. And I have printed out copies of these for Your Honor to be able to retain as detention hearing exhibits.
Thank you.
So State's Exhibit 1 is actually a Google map, but what that is the phone mapping of the defendant's phone. And what you are seeing is that the phone at the very top red dot is the residence of the defendant and the victim. And on the early morning of September 21st, her phone data tracks her on that blue line all the way down to the bottom red dot, and where on September 30th, Matthew's truck was recovered. In fact, it tracks her in the early mornings on the 21st, which is verified by the fact that a doorbell camera from a neighbor recorded that the truck was present there at 6 a.m. on the 21st. It also tracked her there at that location where the truck was located on September 25th. And then State's Exhibit 2 is Matthew's truck that is registered to him that was, again, located by law enforcement at that location. Now, during a search of the defendant's and Matthew's residence, the police observed the following: a new mattress on the master bed, a smell of bleach in the house, fresh white marks from the cleaning on the wall behind the master bed, and blood found in the carpet underneath the master bed and on the slats of the master bed. On State's Exhibit 3 is a cutout from that rug. Now, the location of that blood stain is consistent where Matthew would sleep, put his head on the mattress. And that's consistent from the videos that the state has, that the evidence in this case of them arguing in their bedroom that night. Now, going to State's Exhibit 4, now that is Blue Star imaging that confirmed that it's positive for human blood. And in addition, DNA analysis has confirmed that that is Matthew's blood. And State's Exhibit 5.
I'm telling you, technology, you can't do anything anymore. Okay. Not a petty crime, not a murder, nothing. Nothing. Because think about this. I always think about this from a different episode that I did live. Murder in the Mountains, right? One of these things. But on multiple situations like this, other people's cameras are also catching you. Okay? So you got doorbell cameras from other people's stuff. You got dash cams from other cars, right? Your car is tracking you. If you have a new car, if you're not driving a 1954 Chevy, okay, you're being tracked. And if you're driving a 1954 Chevy and you got your cell phone inside, well, you're being tracked too. I mean, seriously. I mean, the key fobs can be tracked. Think about that. I mean, we are in an era where you can do that documentary Under Total Control, even though it wasn't really good, Under Total Control. The one thing about that is the title is completely accurate. We are under total control. You can't do a thing. They're listening to us right now. I mean, even think about it. When you're at home, I do this all the time. I'm like, how did my television just turn on its own? And Netflix pops up and goes, doo-doo. I mean, seriously, the TV's off. How is that possible? It just turns itself on. I mean, you are being listened to in your bedroom. She killed him in the bedroom, allegedly. Your TV heard it. Literally, your TV heard it. We're getting so close to the technology where if you did something in your house, they're just going to log in, go to your television, right? And just, the whole thing is recorded 24/7. They're just going to hear every conversation, hear it, track see you. I mean, what's next? Who knows what they can do that we're not even aware of at this point?
5 is also Blue Star imaging of confirming that it's human blood on the slats of the master bed. Now I'd like to move on to State's Exhibit 6. This is the mapping of the defendant's phone on September 22nd. It shows her traveling up north. It also, during that time, she also turned her phone off for 2.5 hours. There's also videos that confirm that videos at different locations that confirm she's up north during this time. However, there is new evidence in this case. If we look at State's Exhibit 7, law enforcement did in fact locate that rooftop storage container with the assistance of the military in Davis County. It was located after a storm, and we believe it floated from where it was concealed by the defendant. If you go to State's Exhibit 8, State's Exhibit 8 is that same storage container. You can see that it was duct taped, but I want to note the specific design and the logo from that container. If we could go to 9. This is a screenshot recovered from the defendant's phone. And if we go to State's Exhibit 10, this is zoomed up close. You can see it's the same design, it's the same logo. If you go to 11, This is Blue Star imaging from human blood found in that storage container. DNA analysis has determined that it's Matthew's blood. There's also additional evidence that has been discovered. If we can go to 12. Now that GPS phone data, that tracking map that we showed on the previous exhibit, put the defendant at a specific location. A location that, upon further investigation, it turns out the defendant discarded even more evidence. Law enforcement located the master bed foam mattress and pillows which were wrapped up in a rug from the residence. If you go to 13. Now 13 is that same rug, and that is the mattress pad and pillows, we believe, from the defendant's residence. If you could go to 14. Now 14 is in fact a screenshot from a body camera a month prior to the murder, and that is of the master bedroom. And you can see it looks just like the same foam mattress. And then State's Exhibit 15, that is the rug that was wrapped around the foam mattress and the pillows unobscured. And we go to 16. 16 is a screenshot from the defendant's phone taken from 2023. That is the same rug. And that is Matthew Johnson next to the same rug. Your Honor, I have no more exhibits, but I do have some additional information. There is right before the defendant reported Matthew missing, the informant recorded a phone call with the defendant. And rather than playing it here, I just want to summarize some points and what is recorded on that recording. In the phone call, the defendant apologizes for telling the informant about what happened. She tells him to not think of her as a monster and to remember her who she was before she opened her mouth. And the informant tells the defendant that he was frightened by what she had told him. And then the informant, and I quote, says to her, hypothetically, if the roles were reversed and I did something to someone and I told you that I carried it out, like, you would be shocked and scared, wouldn't you? And the defendant responds, quoting, well, not if I deserved it. I always preached that I was like the Queen of Hearts in my past lives because I'm like off with their heads. I'm like, if we could just round up the scum of this earth and put them on an island or just kill them all, I could shipshape this country back into a good place. Now then, even in that phone call,
this woman's deranged. She actually said that. They have this on a recording. How do women end up in this place? Like, think about, first of all, we're not even there yet, right? Everything that we've heard so far. Can you imagine? Do you know the amount of work, the amount of stuff this woman had to do? Was it like you really needed to kill him? There was no other solution. And you actually thought you were going to get away with this and not be in prison for life? Because I can pretty much almost guarantee this woman's going to jail forever. I mean, really?
Well, then, even in that phone call, she starts claiming that this is just a hypothetical situation. However, she tells, and I quote the informant, I think that the fact that you got scared of me, that part, it broke my heart, because I was like, wow, if you think I could even hurt a fly, like he's not a person. He wasn't a person anymore. He wasn't Matt anymore. And what's key
now, who is she? Who's this informant? The lover that helped her with this? That took a plea deal because he taped her? I'm just kidding. Like, where's this going right here? Because to me, it's still, I don't care how tall and statuish. It's very difficult for me to believe that she did all of this on her own. She's moving mattresses. She's moving dead bodies. She's lugging stuff into storage containers en route. I mean, how? How are you doing all this alone? I'm just curious.
From that recording is at this point, Matt hadn't been reported missing. Yet the defendant was referring to him in the past tense.
Done. You're done. You're cooked. You're toasted. You're done. That's it. Bye. You're done. You're talking about he wasn't human. He wasn't Matt anymore. He isn't even reported missing. And the guy's been, and you're talking to him as if he's dead. Come on. These people don't think. You know, you watch too many J-Lo movies, okay? You watch too many, like, you know, these fairy tales. And it's like, no, you're not really going to show up and beat your husband. It's really not going to happen without, you know, a gun. Seriously. Like, these women are so delusional because these feminists actually lead them down these paths to think that they could actually, first of all, do this and get away with it. And that they can actually live a life without a conscience afterward. I mean, think about this. Because no matter what, over time, what is this doing? Eating her alive?
Now, moving on to the other prong, there is clear and convincing evidence that the defendant presents a substantial danger to the community and to the integrity of law enforcement's investigation if released on bail. Now, the defendant previously made an unsuccessful attempt to get a protective order, and the defendant believes, the state believes the defendant was very calculating in her crimes. Just days after that temporary protective order was removed, she arranged for the children to stay at her parents' during the evening that Matthew was killed.
There's children involved here. Oh my God, these kids have no chance. Men, you have to choose your female partners better. Gotta really pay attention to the details. Get it? Forget about, you know, this is how these tall blondes just be, you know, rocking you to sleep.
And she asked her parents to keep the children home at their house for another day, presumably while she was cleaning up the crime and disposing of Matthew's body.
Wow.
The evidence is significant that the defendant obstructed the investigation by removing the mattress and replacing it days later with a new mattress. The cargo box that had been observed by witnesses at the home on prior occasion was disposed of and then later located. The mattress pillows and the mattress pad were also disposed of and then later recovered. However, the mattress is still missing. The gun is still missing. The very gun that we have video of her handling, and the same gun she showed the informant just days before the murder. We did find the box of the handgun. The defendant hid the box in a onesie at her parents' home. Your Honor, she's already shown that she will tamper with witnesses, but she also told the informant not to say anything.
She hid it in a onesie. In a onesie. A onesie? This woman just, you know what? Obviously, this woman in life has just gotten her way. You can't convince me otherwise. She's gotten her way all throughout her life. You hid the gun box in a onesie, and you didn't think they would find it? I mean, hello?
The evidence in this case is substantial, and if released, the defendant will continue her efforts to cover her crime. Further, the defendant is a flight risk. The defendant told the informant that she would kill herself before spending her life in prison, or that she would flee the state with her children. Now, I wanted to remind the court that there was a letter filed a long time ago from Matthew Johnson's family. I just want to briefly reference that letter where the family is urging you not to release the defendant on bail. The reasons, and just quoting from that letter, the reason Jennifer should not be released is due to the evidence tampering, witness tampering, concern for the kids. They're concerned that she may harm herself or others. They're concerned that she killed her husband, the father of her children, and that the Johnson family would be in a state of shock, terror, and fear. They also say that if she can brutally murder her husband with no remorse, she's clearly capable of harming her children. She's uncooperative in helping law enforcement locating the children's father's body. They're concerned that she could flee the state or country. They're concerned that she could harm or contact the informant. In fact, the informant has expressed fear if she were to be released. And she could plant or stage false evidence.
She's already hurt her children. She murdered their father. You don't think she's caused harm to her kids already? How are these kids ever going to live their lives? Can you imagine this? This is so sad.
I said, Your Honor, the family urges you to hold the defendant in custody without bail. The search for Matthew Johnson's body is ongoing. And his family just wants to bring Matthew home. And they are concerned that if the defendant is released, she will continue to obstruct those efforts. And for all these reasons, the state has met its burden, and we ask that you hold the defendant without bail. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms.
My God, this woman is a menace to society. Everyone's afraid of her. The informant's afraid of her. Her own kids are afraid of her. You know that. I mean, her parents are probably afraid of her. Her in-laws are afraid of her. I mean, everybody around her is afraid of her. She's literally a menace to society. Let's see what this judge has.
Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Paulus. Mr. Diaz.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, what's he going to do? After all that? He's got no chance. You know what? He should just excuse himself, remove himself from the case, come down with COVID, do something. You're done. Like, you might end your career right now. I mean, how are you even representing that? Seriously?
I think when you're...
Dude is buff, though. Good shape. I mean, he's probably thinking more about, maybe when I do visitations, I could, we could hook up or something. Yeah, I mean, actually, who knows? Maybe the lawyer is, look, there's a man involved somewhere, okay? You don't just kill your husband because there's not somebody waiting to come Captain Save a you-know-what, okay? Something isn't right here. Or money, something. There's insurance, something.
Looking at evidence, oftentimes when we're doing this job, you realize pretty quickly that there are oftentimes two sides to every story. And
in this instance or circumstance, Your Honor, I realize that there is none. There's no two sides. There's no two sides. I gotta hear where this goes. Well, he beat me. He hurt me. He wouldn't let me go out for martinis. And he got mad at me once because I gave the kids NyQuil. I needed a girls' night out. Okay? I mean, being a mom is difficult. This is what we're dealing with. I guarantee it.
Explanations that if offered could make sense in different contexts. I think there's a lot of that here in this case. Now, getting to what the state has to show in order to maintain the no bail hold. As the court knows, they have to satisfy the substantial evidence prong. The two biggest factors that cut against the state's requirement of substantial evidence are the lack of a body and lack of a murder weapon. Mr. Johnson is a highly trained special forces officer with several tours of combat under his belt and is equipped with abilities your standard citizen simply does not have. These abilities and experiences give multiple explanations and possibilities that have nothing to do with Miss Gledhill.
Oh, so what's she going to say, that he lost it because he was in like Iraq or something? Is that where she's trying to go with this? Really? Well, sweetheart, do you think that if that was the case, I'm just guessing where this is going here, okay? Do you think that even if that was the case, that the right thing to do is to off him? Really? How about you get him help? How about you get him some psychiatrists or doctors, or try and help the man if he was no longer the man he was, like you said? Unbelievable.
To do with Miss Gledhill as it relates to his disappearance. Further, Your Honor, the lack of confirming evidence, I would argue the lack of confirming evidence on items allegedly disposed of by Miss Gledhill is another cut against the state's requirement of substantial evidence. The state claims to have found a travel container Miss Gledhill allegedly used to dispose of the body, and that container contained, and going back to, the court had an opportunity to see what that container looked like. The possibility of Miss Gledhill being able to fit a full-grown man inside that container, to me, seems difficult and limited. And I do think it cuts against their argument of substantial evidence. Additionally, the state noted that there was DNA found within that. What the state does not note as it relates to that DNA found in that container is that initially when they found that DNA, there was so little DNA that it required a notice to consume, saying that they could only test it once, and that if we chose to, there wouldn't be enough DNA left for us to test to confirm it. Now, they were able to do some things, and they were able to save enough for us to test, but that's how little DNA that we're talking about is found in that storage container.
Sweetheart, the DNA is the least of your problems. It's all the tracking. Okay? They're listening. We are under total control. The DNA is old school. That's old school. Okay? And I'm sure there's a ton more elsewhere. Think about it. They're tracking you. Your television is listening.
The state also found a rug, foam mattress topper, and a pillow. What hasn't been provided to me and what I didn't hear the state talk about today is on this mattress topper and on these pillows where this alleged murder is said to have happened, I have yet to see any sort of confirming DNA or blood evidence as it relates to those. And it's the same thing with the rug. So even though those things are confirming of potentially someone, potentially Miss Gledhill, disposing of those things, it's not really on its face evidence of the murder, of the alleged murder.
So, he just slipped up there of the murder, of the alleged murder. Now, so if those things aren't related, but like the rug, for instance, right? The rug, we see it in our house. So some neighbor had the same exact rug and just, I mean, does this make any sense? At some point, common sense does have to come into play. Where, well, if grandma made a crumb cake and told you don't touch that crumb cake, okay, grandpa has, he's got sugar, no crumb cake for grandpa. And then you come home and grandpa's full of crumb cake. Oh, I didn't touch it. It wasn't him. I didn't eat the crumb cake. I didn't touch that crumb cake. No, this isn't crumbs. This is something else. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like these things just don't make sense at some point.
As it relates to the shallow grave, both Cottonwood Heights Police Department and the Army Reserve has searched all over the areas extensively with not only manpower, but also the use of drones. Still, no body, no weapon. The state brought up video of an argument that was had, but that's all it is video of an argument. And if we're bringing up the argument, I have had the opportunity to look at those. And there are moments where Matthew is incredibly aggressive with my client. As it relates to the conversation with her post-divorce filing partner, the statements as read provide not a lot of real context. These are kind of taken from different places. And again, it's not giving the court a full picture of what's going on in that conversation. As far as clear and convincing evidence, Your Honor, I want to start with the risk to flee.
Oh, there's no risk to flee. First of all, you know what? Okay, the Army. Let's say, because obviously, look, she's not just making all of it up. Obviously, there was turmoil between them in the relationship, right? Okay? I mean, the man obviously has issues. She could have went to the Army. The Army would have handled it like this. She could have went to the Army about something like this. I'm starting to think maybe she wanted that Army pension or whatever. You get what I'm saying? There's got to be money involved. And if I had to bet, there's another man. Okay? Probably a sergeant or something. I mean, who knows? I don't know.
Between the time that there was about a week, 5-6 days, I can't remember specifically what it was, between Miss Gledhill's first interview with police, where they interviewed her, they executed search warrants. She knew exactly what they were looking for, and her actual arrest for this. If she were going to flee the jurisdiction, if she were going to commit suicide, she would have done it there. Instead, she went and hired an attorney and chose to begin her battle to fight for her innocence. So I don't think that there's a risk to flee here, and I don't think that the court can find by clear and convincing evidence with that there is a risk to flee the jurisdiction. As far as creating a substantial danger to any other individual or the community, if the court believes there is substantial evidence to support the charges, there's not clear and convincing evidence Ms. Gledhill is a threat to anyone or the community. Ms. Gledhill has no criminal history and has lived in the Cottonwood Heights area for most of her life. She has a very supportive network of family and friends who know who she is and know her well. Many have signed letters of support that were filed with the court this morning. I hope the court had an opportunity to read those.
I did read those.
Thank you. Further, there are conditions of release available to alleviate any concerns raised by the state. I know a lot of the concerns of the state relate to possible tampering of evidence, possible threatening of witnesses. My client is more than willing to engage and abide by whatever conditions the court deems appropriate. That includes protective orders, that includes GPS monitoring, and that includes all PR level 5 conditions. She has places that she can live so that there are people that she's around regularly. And so there are conditions that should alleviate the court in her not being a threat to anyone in particular, nor the community at large. So with that, Your Honor, we are asking that you release Ms. Gledhill. We're asking that you release her with ankle monitoring, with PR level 5 conditions, and allow her to fight this case on the outside.
Weak. Now, compare what he just presented to what that woman presented, okay? Are you kidding me? He's not even in the lane. You're not even in the same country right now. You're on another planet. You are not on Earth. Really?
Does the court have any questions for me?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, would the state have an opportunity just to respond briefly?
You may.
Yes. Your Honor, Mr. Diaz claim that there's so little DNA is just a misstatement of how DNA is tested. The DNA is swabbed off of evidence, and only half for the container, only half of the swab was needed to confirm that it was Matthew Johnson's blood on that container. The defendant is free to test. We did not have to consume, and the defendant is free to test the other half. And as I indicated in my previous argument, serology also confirmed that it was human blood on the carpet and in the container. And we know Matthew Johnson's blood is on the carpet as well. And in regards to the container argument of whether or not Matthew Johnson's body can fit in there, we don't know what happened with his body. The only person who knows is the defendant. However, that is a perfect mechanism, the container, to slide down the stairs. And it's the state's theory that she didn't put it on the top. She was able to lift it up into the back of her van. And in the video that the state has obtained of the two of them arguing, at no time was Matthew Johnson at all physically violent, and there were no bruises on the defendant's body. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the presentations today. Ms. Gledhill, your attorney, I'm sure, has explained this. It's been discussed here today. Under Utah law, anyone who's been arrested or charged with a criminal offense is entitled to bail as a matter of right, except with certain conditions. The court has to make certain findings to say that bail isn't appropriate. The state here has argued that there is substantial evidence to support the felony charges that have been filed here. And I agree that there is substantial evidence. We can debate whether that evidence is enough for a conviction, but that's not the level that I'm looking at. It's not the same level as if this matter were to go to trial to determine guilt or innocence. Substantial evidence is less than that. And I do believe that the state has presented enough evidence to meet that prong of the statute. The second prong is, can the court find by clear and convincing evidence one of several things? And one of the things that the state has talked about is a substantial danger to an individual or to the community. And that's after I consider any conditions of release that I could potentially impose. And those conditions of release then could mitigate that danger. I do find by clear and convincing evidence that there is a substantial danger to an individual, that being the informant that the state has referenced, as well as to the community. I have considered whether any conditions of release would be appropriate and mitigate against those concerns, and I appreciate the suggestions that Mr. Diaz has given. But given what we are dealing with here, given the evidence that I've been presented with today, including the proffers, I don't believe any conditions can sufficiently mitigate against that substantial danger. So I do find that the state has met the burden under the statute to have the no bail hold remain, and that'll be the decision of the court today. So, Mr. Diaz, how would you like to schedule this further?
Your Honor, if we could go out 2 weeks.
You can go to March 14th, 1 p.m.
Perfect.
Does that work for the state?
It does.
Okay, March 14th, 1 p.m. for pretrial conference. Thank you all.
Well, first of all, look at this. I just have to say, what a waste. This woman could have been something. She was something. I would love to see the wedding photos, okay? Because can you imagine what she looked like? She's stunningly beautiful. She's statuesque. I mean, you could have went and found someone else. You had to kill him. Because, come on, people. My God. I mean, I think the evidence is pretty overwhelming. All right? I mean, really? Are we going to sit here and pretend that she didn't do anything? I mean, what a waste. This is so sad because something, either our culture, society, or a bunch of feminists led this woman down this path. Led her down this path. What a waste. Well, you know what? Not going to get away with it this time. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Crime and Culture Unfiltered. I'm Dubrava. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I kind of like these. I think this is something we're going to bring back. All right. Let me know what you think. I'm Dubrava. Don't forget to share, please. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.